we're back to discuss Life itself, and if you saw our review, we were careful. We tried not to spoil anything. We did talk about how the movie hits you in the feels, as Amber would say. So what else did you guys think about it? Because I've had like 10 days to percolate on it, and I don't want to take over here.
Man, this movie kind of reminded me of the book, The Book Thief. That book starts off with, everybody in this story is dead. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how this movie should have started off. Everybody in this movie's dead. Because that's what it felt like at the end. I'm like, damn, that hurt. Oh, gosh. There's so much good about that movie. I was shocked. Like you mentioned what he said in TIFF about how all these great actors agreed to be in this movie and none of them were the star. Such huge names got so little screen time. I mean, Annette Bening was on the screen for maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac probably the most screen time, I would say.
Yeah.
It might be between him and Antonio Banderas.
The Banderas one kind of felt like a shift for me, because I'm sitting there like everything's taking place in New York, and then all of a sudden it goes over to subtitles, and I'm like, wait, what's happening here? Mm-hmm. And I thought it was just going to be like separate stories. Okay, well, the other people's story is done. And then they tied it all together, and it was just, it was so well done.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm rambling now.
I wanted more from their daughter's perspective. Like,
from Olivia Cook's
daughter. Because it was just like, man, you see that she's kind of a...
Dylan.
Yeah, like a special kid, but then she still respects her, her grandfather who's taking care of her, plays into his, jokes, or, he doesn't want to be lied to, but because he doesn't want to hear the truth, she does it for him. Mm-hmm. And then it just stops. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like, man, I really wanted to see what else could have happened with her, or what else would have gone on with her.
Yeah.
And it gave you no more. And I was like, maybe, I would have thought that maybe like another 10 minutes with her could have been would have given you a little bit more information, and it could have been 10 minutes less, 10-15 minutes less with Antonio Banderas' section.
Her chapter did get a little short shrift. Like, a huge focus of her chapter was kind of on the other characters around her. Like, they killed the dog. Dear God, they killed the dog in this movie. Like, the first part of her story is everybody dying, and then the next part of her story, well, you never really see it.
She's 21.
It kind of gets tied into a later story.
Mm-hmm.
She just sits on a bench, and there she is.
Yeah. Did they mention if he had told, her that he knew he saw her mom pass away, like, or her grandmother, I guess it would be her mom.
You have to assume, because the daughter's the narrator, and she knows. So if she knows, the mom probably does.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're on, I believe that the bench that she's sitting on is at the intersection where that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he is walking up to that intersection and seeing her, and they go on about how that was a really traumatic thing for him to experience. So it's the kind of thing I think they would have probably figured out almost immediately, that he witnessed that, and that, he's like 5 or 6 years older than her or something like that, that he saw that happen. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I think, honestly, having seen it twice now, I think the rest of her story is really what happens at the end, which is just kind of told in narration from what ends up being their daughter's point of view. I don't know what else I really would have wanted to see from her specifically. I felt like they did a really good job of eventually tying everything to that crash, and also not. I know a lot of people have been bashing this movie. A lot of critics have been saying that the movie's emotionally manipulative and all of that kind of stuff. It really hits you with all the hardest stuff right in a row. It doesn't like spread it out and keep cycling more misery at you. It's really like we find out that his screenplay was really how Olivia Wilde's character died, and then immediately it goes to Oscar Isaac's character shoots himself, and then it immediately goes to the daughter's grandmother dies, the dog dies. So it's like 4 or 5 big gut punches right in a row. And then she's there with Mandy Patinkin, and they have sort of the right after the funeral scene, the scene where she has like the, way too good of a conversation, and then they back up and show what she really said. And then there's the final scene with her she's older, she's 21, she goes out and she does that like Bob Dylan song, and that's why she ends up leaving the party and ends up at the bus stop.
Screamo Bob Dylan.
And I think if they had spent more time with her, it would have started to give away that there was going to be more with her, more of a connection with her. To me, it felt more like that part of the story was over, and now we were switching, and then we spend a lot of time with the Gonzalez family chapter and then the Rodrigo Gonzalez chapter, which really ends the story. Like the 5th chapter about their daughter is just like she turns that one page, and then a minute later the movie's over. So
Correct.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Poll. When Becky with the good hair is out in the road and that taxi cab speeding along, who wanted her to get hit?
It was that section is so freaking funny. I think that's what Hannah and I were talking about, like right out of the gate when we left, was about like that movie, for nothing else, will go down in history as the worst April Fool's joke of all time.
Yeah.
Because we were both just like,
What? Yeah.
no. He ruined his life.
Third option.
He ruined his life already.
Yeah, when he was
The loud girl.
This is the most important day of his life. I'm pregnant. Oh
Oh
shit!
no.
This is not what I saw
Love
coming.
how you don't know stuff.
Yeah, that was hard.
Man, like
What is April Fool's joke?
every scene she was in, I was just like, somebody hit her with a bus.
Yeah.
And then that taxi cab's coming, and I'm like, you let it happen. Let it happen. And he pulls her out of the way, and I'm like, God.
And she's completely oblivious.
Doesn't even care.
Yeah.
Doesn't even care. Oh my God. You're right, though. That was funny.
Yeah. She's going to show him the wonder of Whole Foods.
You don't know
And
what
being a
vegan
vegan.
is?
And
Yeah.
being a vegan.
I love that.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I don't know. I have read a little bit of the criticism since I saw it last week, and I think mainly it's whether you feel manipulated by the movie or not, I guess, is whether you decide if you like it or not.
I will say the first 5 minutes were kind of weird and off-putting. Like,
Yeah.
you had a narrator that was breaking the fourth wall. The characters were breaking the fourth wall, and I'm just like, I hate this. I hate this. And then you find
Two
out
people
what's-
walked out of our theater during, like, the first minute and a half of the movie.
Then you find out why that's happening, and you're like, okay, gotcha. And it all falls into place.
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting watching it a second time is there's a section that doesn't, like, you get it on the first watch, but they really try to put it more importance on it than it really feels like the first time, which is when he's recounting the story of their last day together. He's making a point of saying, but everything I've told you is probably wrong. Like, she could have been having a terrible time. I could have been pushing her away. I could have been smothering her. Mm-hmm. And as a first-time audience, you don't know that she's about to die. Like, you or that's how she dies. You think maybe she killed herself or got overwrought about something, and that's what happened. But on the second watch, it's like really clear that they're trying to drive home the point that we only know about Olivia Wilde's character through this story from the survivor, from Oscar Isaac's perspective, and he himself is saying, I might have made myself look better in this than I really was. I may have made our relationship look better than it really was.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't this great.
That also throws one thing I questioned at the end of the movie was you find out that it's Oscar Isaac's grandchild that is the one doing the story, but Olivia Wilde dies at her mother's birth. Oscar Isaacs never meets his mother. So where does she get that first chapter of her book? There's no one there to tell her the story unless the psychiatrist gave her the tapes.
Or the more likely, that's something that Mandy Patinkin would have been told.
Mm-hmm.
Like, either the therapist or the police would have said,
this is what we were going over.
Like, this is what happened. Or this is what... Well, Mandy Patinkin would have known how she died. Because there would have been a police report on that and eyewitness statements and all that kind of stuff. And then as far as what Oscar Isaac was doing before he shot himself, that would have been public record.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the story just seemed like it was privy to stuff that once you find out that she's narrating it, she would have had to just kind of make up herself, which again drives home the idea of the unreliable narrator.
Right.
So
right, and I feel like they kind of step on the gas of that for a little bit at the end of the Oscar Isaac story, and then they kind of thankfully stay away from it for the rest of the movie. I think if they'd done another like twist about the Gonzalezes, or if you found out that it turned out that Antonio Banderas really was the guy's biological father, and
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Something
was
like
waiting
that
for that to drop.
I was waiting for that one to drop, or to be like, we're related. I'm gonna give you my farm, or I'm gonna give you my estate.
yeah.
Well, it's kind of...
It's implied.
Yeah, it's kind of implied that went to Rodrigo.
But I figured it prior.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that scene, I didn't even notice it the first time I watched it, but there's a scene where a young version of the girl at the very end is laying on like an outdoor couch with Olivia Cook and Rodrigo, and it's obviously at the
vineyard.
yeah.
And it was amazing, like the guy who played Rodrigo looks so much like a shaved Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
They did a really good job of that. That was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. I found more stuff to like in it the second time around, and obviously I wasn't quite as I had become hardened to the to the surprise gut punches from the first time I saw it.
When they killed the dog, I was like, I'm leaving. I'm done.
Yeah. But yeah, there were honestly people. My wife is gonna find this hilarious because she saw the premiere with me at TIFF. Like the first 3 minutes of the movie, maybe, are a fake-out opening, which is a screenplay that Oscar Isaac's character is writing that is narrated by Samuel L. Jackson as the unreliable narrator. And they don't tell you that until the end of those, 5 pages or whatever. But there were people at our theater tonight that got, 2 minutes into that, and they got tired of hearing Samuel L. Jackson's voice, and they just got up and walked away. It's this movie does change quite a bit if he let it. Like, do you remember Samuel L. Jackson's name in the like trailers for this? Because he's not in there. This is his only time in the movie.
The trailer's unreliable.
The unreliable trailer. This is a trailer for Star Wars 9. What the hell's going on here?
They kill the dog.
Yeah. Mace Windu shouldn't be in this. Alright. That is life itself. If you like when we do these, please like the video, subscribe, check out all the written video reviews at dalemaxfield.com. Thanks for watching.